Friday.
Welcome to Freed on Business. He grew up in South Florida, has been in business here since the early 90s, and has closed over $3 billion in deals. He's seen it all. He always has an opinion, and he's always ready to share it. Informed, entertaining, and connected, he has his finger on the pulse of South Florida's business community. He's Jim Freed, and this is Freed on Business.
Hey, Freed on Business fans, welcome back to another edition of Freed on Business, South Florida's longest running business radio show and now podcast. Today we're going to talk about change. The only constant in business is change. Almost nobody runs their business like that. They just believe it's a great quote to have on their wall. I've got a terrific story to tell you about that. It goes back to my Rabbi Gopin, who helped me found the Chabad in Midtown. 20 years ago when I met Rabbi Gopin, he'd walk around in his black outfit in the blazing sun, knocking on the doors of the warehouses, the small metal warehouses in the Miami Wynwood district. Today, he's the CEO of probably one of the fastest growing Chabad houses in the world, I would imagine. Our synagogue has grown dramatically. He's got a day school. He's got his son-in-law, who we've had on the show, Rabbi Potash, running the Jewish Professional Network. And then he's got his son running the outreach for families to watch the synagogue grow and the rabbi grow from being strictly a spiritual leader to now being the CEO of a major business has been really rewarding. And it's a great example to all of us that we need to embrace challenge and embrace change. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Another great example of change is our sponsor, Warren Henry Automotive. As the auto industry changes, Warren Henry's changed and evolved. It's very rare that a third generation family member has extraordinary success, and that's what Larry's in is. That's what he does. Larry has helped usher Warren Henry into the latest era of automobile dealerships, and I would say business. He does that by doing everything from mentoring young people that are still in high school so he can get the top line folks to do his service, to continuing to provide excellent service. And hats off, a tip of the cap, if you will, to Gerald, my service advisor. I want to remind everybody we're live on all the different podcast services after the show posts on Wednesdays at noon. And you can see us broadcast live on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitch. I love saying Twitch. At the live noon on Wednesdays. And now on with the show. I want to remind everybody, you can't resist change. Change is an extraordinarily uncomfortable thing to go through. Nobody really likes change, even though we all have on our blackboards or our mission boards or aspirational boards to be agile, to be forward thinking. Most people try to defend what they've already got and what already works. And the reality is, when you're at the end of the life cycle of whatever you do, you've got to evolve or you're going to die in a business sense. Change doesn't always wait for the end of your quarter. Just look at what's been going on with AI. At the beginning of the year, nobody talked about AI. Data centers wasn't on anybody's radar screen, and now it's all they talk about. Remember, we've had interest rate changes, supply changes, legislative changes. I've got 30 years of real estate experience, and the other day I was looking at the interest rate charts from decades ago, and I got news for you. Everybody says, oh my God, interest rates are historically high today. No, interest rates are exactly where they were 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago. Although I will say that when I graduated college, back before they had fire and the wheel, interest rates were peaking at 20+%. Look, we survived that. We'll survive the sticky rates in the range that they're at now. It's basically the historical level. Business can't get hurt by making one bad decision. You've got to look at your decision. If you need to change the decision, accept that fact and make the change. One of the things I learned in business school, I ever talk about that I went to business school back in the day? Yes, I have an MBA. When I was in business school, they always told you to have Slack resources, something there as a backup in case there's change. In other episodes, we've talked about having reserve capital to take advantage of opportunities or hold yourself over as the marketplace changes. You have to have cash. You have to have relationships. You have to have flexible team members. Really, The people in your life are the most important people, and they need to be able to handle change as well. Because I can tell you one thing, life is not static. Life is dynamic. It's always changing, and you need to be able to handle that. It used to be that I would read newspapers and magazines, and I'd be able to get the edge from that. I stopped playing fantasy football when it became apparent that you couldn't buy the newspapers and the magazines, that it was changing instantaneously. And so instead of being able to outwork everybody, now it's pretty much all luck. And unless you can outwork somebody, I'm really not interested, because one of my keys is to be able to outwork anybody. So it's the same in business. I outwork people, but I do it in a different way now. Now I rely on my relationships. Yes, I've been lucky enough to build terrific relationships over the years. And in fact, I'll be going up to the Florida ICSC ID exchange, or whatever they call it now, in Orlando this weekend. So in the next couple of weeks, we'll have an episode talking about what I learned at the Orlando ID exchange. That's another example of change. It used to be that you go up there, you'd meet all the owners, all the developers. With the consolidation in the retail marketplace and the lack of equity in the space, that marketplace has changed now. There's lots of banks that are looking to fund that a retail deal. It's the hottest sector on the planet, which is interesting given the fact that just a couple of years ago, it was the sector under distress the most. Again, an example of change in business. But today, the missing component is equity. I know lots of institutional investors that would love to invest in the retail space, but they're not able to do their fundraising. I just got an email from one of them today. You'd recognize their name. Basically, they said, Jim, we love your deal. We love your sponsors. We'd love to be part of it. We're in the middle of fundraising, and we're evolving our company. We'd love to talk to you next year when you're ready to break ground. And you got to be able to handle that change. My developer needs the cash in place to be able to wait for the equity to come into his deal, and he needs to continue to move forward. They have to be able to work within a changing environment. Just a year ago, they'd be able to raise their hand and the money would fall from heaven. But today, it's a different story, and that's another example of change. Now, what's the missing piece in all of this? The missing piece is leadership. On the retail development side, I've had to work with my developer and explain to them that we need to be patient and we need to allow the market to come to us. We need to accept the change in the marketplace, and they're structured correctly. They've got the cash to wait it out. Cash is king in real estate. It gives you the opportunity to wait out a market cycle. Remember, that's a slack resource. It helps you with change. You've got to let go of the processes that you were comfortable with. Another great example is one I already gave about, I used to read everything and beat everybody to the market information. I used to call it using information arbitrage. You can't do that anymore. Now the information arbitrage happens face-to-face over coffee at a conference like the ICSC show. Really, sometimes just at lunch when you go to the right place to see all the different folks, be it downtown, be it on Brickell, be it in Midtown, be it in Coconut Grove. Each place will have its different, South Miami is another great example. Each place will have a different group of people. They will be sharing different ideas, and you need to go out and get those ideas now face to face. And then you've got to use the AI as a tool. Remember, this is another evolution. This is another way you do change. You use the AI as a tool, and you use it to give you basic information to make sure you're not missing anything. But you really have to use natural intelligence to measure what's going on, and then your ability to say hello, your personal relationships to implement things. A big change when the real saying was information is king. Now the ability to problem solve and meet new people and help everybody else along in the process is the key, and that is leadership. This habit allows you to have self-directed personal evolution and also business evolution, and that way you're not being driven by a crisis management situation, which is always the worst. If you show desperation, you've already lost. Now, we're going to have our close. We're going to talk about the bottom line, and we're going to do it right after, as I said earlier, one of the best people I know, our sponsors, Warren Henry Automotive. They are masters of change. And now, Miami Podcast Studios, another revolution in Freedom Business. It's all yours. already mentioned it before. I want to thank our friends at Warren Henry Automotive. They've been a sponsor of the podcast for 18 years. They've seen all the changes and they've stayed with us, and I've watched their business evolve too. I want to thank Larry Zinn for sponsoring the podcast for all these years. Larry accepts me as who I am, and as I evolve and as the podcast has evolved, Larry has stood with us just the way he stood with our community and evolved with our community. Today, Larry runs an apprentice, I don't know what to call it, class at his showroom for people that are still in high school. He shows these people how they can make an incredible career, get great salaries and great benefits by not even having to go to college. And he gives a great pathway to a positive career. High five to my good friend Larry Zinn and his partner Eric Day, and of course the founder Warren Henry Zinn, for seeing what the evolution in the auto industry is, and rather than fighting it, embracing it, noticing the problems, noticing the issues, and addressing it. And because they do that, my good friend Gerald Henry has the opportunity to give me the best service at the best price, because he's got a tremendous group of service providers in his shop. So remember, if you're looking to buy or lease a car, you want to get every advantage that you can. That's why you have to check out our friends at Warren Henry Automotive, Land Rover, Range Rover, Jaguar, and Lincoln. I love my Lincoln, Larry. Up at their headquarters store at 151st and Biscayne. They've got a great store down in the Keys that sells all their great name brands. They've got an award-winning Land Rover, Range Rover store in South Dade and West Broward. Remember, join me, my family, my friends, my clients. We're all members of the Warren Henry family. You should be too. Always the best price, always the best service, always Warren Henry.
Welcome back to Freed on Business. Connect with us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter at Jim Freed or at Freed on Business, and on Instagram at Jim Freed1. Now, back to your host, Jim Freed.
I want to remind everybody to reach out to me. You see my phone number, my email address there. I help family offices, institutions, high net worth investors, and real estate developers and investors from all over the world manage the change that is going on in today's marketplace. And another great, and you can catch all our old podcasts where we do other great business advice and great business insights. This is episode, I forgot to say it at the top, 886. God bless you and God bless America for that, huh? Miami Podcast Studios has been with me for a long, long time, first with ideas and now as my technical support team. They do a great job and they've evolved with me. And a great example of, and you can catch our podcast if you missed anything on all the different podcast services. We're South Florida's longest running business podcast. Join our team, become a fan of Freed on Business on your favorite podcast network. I want to give Freed on Business as an example of change, accepting change. We went from a radio show that had a fixed breaks and was an hour long to COVID, when we had to find a place to, well, then they changed the radio station. It went to an automated broadcast thing. They got rid of all the business podcasting. We had all the business radio shows. That was around episode 500 and something. We had to find a new platform and embrace the challenge. Somebody said, have you ever heard of Zoom? I go, what's that? Right about then, COVID hit. So you couldn't get guests to come in. It all had to be on Zoom. I remember one of our first guests was Dr. Andrew Sherman, a physiatrist at the University of Miami Health System. We call it UHealth. And he gave exercises to do at your desk during COVID. He said his followers on at the time, Twitter, went from 30 to 500 in just that one episode. So high five to him. He's now developed and built the new building over there on the UM campus. So he's evolved. And the show continues to evolve. We've gone to a shorter format, more direct. We use AI as a supplement to make sure we're not missing things and to help guide us in framing out our ideas. But you can tell just by listening to me that we're not using AI, and I'm not doing an AI generated script. And just to recap what we've done here today, you've got to build Slack in your network and in your business. You've got to be flexible in your business. You got to know what you really do, who you are, and you've got to pivot immediately when you see a change on the horizon, because if you do it when the change is totally already happened, it's already too late. You've got to make those changes small and gradually, but you got to do it right away. You've got to think to yourself, what would I do today based on current conditions, and how can I evolve today to match what's going on? Again, I want to thank our sponsors at Warren Henry Automotive. They've been changing and evolving with us for 18 years now. I want to remind everybody that the person that wants to do something finds a way. The other finds an excuse. This episode is a great hallmark for that. Now go out there and make it happen. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. Miami Podcast Studios, the rest of the episode is yours.